This message comes from NPR sponsor HP. Break language barriers by translating languages in real time with the HP AI PC. With the right tools, work doesn't have to feel like work. More at hp.com/AI PC.
I told my friend I was going to see the screening of The Smashing Machine, and she was like, "Oh, you mean the new Dwayne Johnson movie?" And I was like, "Dwayne Johnson? Would you call a Mr. T movie the Lawrence Turreau movie? Like, what are we doing right now? Like, you know what I mean?"
Hello, hello. I'm Brittany Luce, and you're listening to It's Been a Minute from NPR, a show about what's going on in culture and why it doesn't happen by accident. All right, y'all, I promised a surprise episode in the feed today, and I am delivering. A couple weeks ago, NPR's Pop Culture Happy Hour podcast asked me to go to the movies. They wanted me to see The Rock's new film, The Smashing Machine, and then come on their show and pop off about it. And well, I did. We rarely talk about specific movies on It's Been a Minute, so I thought this would be a cute treat for you all. Here's Pop Culture Happy Hour's Aisha Harris to get you clued in on what The Smashing Machine is all about.
The wrestling drama pulls out all the classic moves in the award season playbook. Biopic, struggles with addiction, facial prosthetics. We can smell what The Rock is cooking, but is it a hearty enough meal? Joining me today is the host of NPR's It's Been a Minute, Brittany Luce. Welcome back, Brittany.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Also with us is one of the hosts of NPR's Code Switch podcast, Gene Demby. Welcome back to you, too.
What's good with you, Aisha?
Great to have you. And rounding out the panel is freelance music and culture journalist Rihanna Cruz. Welcome back to you too, Rihanna.
Happy to be here.
Yes, yes. Happy to have all of you. I feel like this is going to be a very fun, very interesting conversation because this is a very, not fun, but interesting movie, I will say. So in The Smashing Machine, Dwayne Johnson plays the real-life Mark Kerr, a UFC champion who's known as one of the early pioneers of mixed martial arts in the United States. Now, as Mark reels from his first major loss in the ring, he's forced to confront an addiction to painkillers. His single-minded focus on training for the next big fight also threatens his relationship with his devoted but exasperated girlfriend, Dawn, who's played by Emily Blunt. Big accent work going on here, I'm just going to say. The Smashing Machine is the solo directorial debut of Benny Safdie, who usually collaborates with his brother Josh, and it's in theaters now. Rihanna, I'm going to start off with you. Just give me your initial thoughts about this movie.
I do want to say that I enjoy movies where The Rock is capital A acting. Like, I love Southland Tales. I think he's great in that. I love Pain and Gain. I think he's great in that as well. I saw The Smashing Machine as a return to The Rock capital A acting, as you referred to it. I don't really like Jungle Cruise, Jumanji. Like, I think that's neither here nor there. But I was excited, and I liked it, question mark with an asterisk. You know, I like sports movies writ large, and I like a fighting movie generally. This movie is very by the numbers, but I like those numbers, so I'm not too upset by it. Really, my only thing was that I had trouble figuring out the why. You know, why this story? Why now? Why these people? What is the purpose?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, that was really my main gripe with it. But again, by the numbers fighting movie, didn't really mind it.
Yes. Okay. I'm so glad you brought that up because I had very similar feelings of like, who is this for? I think we know who it's for.
Right.
I'm curious.
The Academy.
Yes. Gene, jump in here. Tell us how you feel about it.
I'm so glad Rihanna said that because I was like, but why this dude?
Right.
Apparently, he was a good fighter, but not like an all-time great. You know what I mean? He had struggled with substance abuse, but it actually seemed like he kicked it pretty quickly. At least the way it's portrayed in the movie, right? Like all of the sort of big sort of hinge moments in the plot happen like in the first 30, 40 minutes. He is a person who is in recovery, and he is a person who's already lost the big fight. Like, what is happening now? Like, you know what I mean? I told my friend I was going to see the screening of The Smashing Machine, and she was like, "Oh, you mean the new Dwayne Johnson movie?" And I was like, "Dwayne Johnson? Would you call a Mr. T movie the Lawrence Turreau movie? Like, what are we doing right now?" Like, you know what I mean? The Rock has been very open about his, like, ambition, right? Like, even if you're like, oh, The Rock is doing a pretty good job in this movie, it's hard not to see it through the lens of, like, this is a very specific career choice that he is making. I'm sorry, Dwayne Johnson is making a very specific choice in this movie.
I was mixed on the movie. There were elements of it that I liked. Like, I thought that Dwayne Johnson gave a very competent performance playing a real life figure. Obviously, like when you're playing a real person, especially when that real person is still alive, he threaded the needle pretty well in playing this guy and actually kind of nailing his manner. I feel like Benny Safdie is somebody who has a lot of like heart and enthusiasm, and that came through. I understood the objective of the character, but I didn't understand like the deeper reason why he did anything that he did. Like, why did he wrestle? Other than physical pain, it seemed like maybe something else going on that he was kind of wrestling with. But like, we don't find out what that is. Yeah. We're not let in on a deeper motivation for why he does anything, why he's so good. So I didn't know anything about UFC. I don't like watching people get punched in the face. Other stuff, I'm like, whatever. A punch in the face, I can't deal with it. I hadn't heard of Mark Kerr. I didn't know who he was. Movie's done. I went and looked him up, and I was like, oh, okay. If there was a real life person that you could talk to kind of get deeper insights into the character, why wasn't some of that deeper stuff there? One last thing. I saw it in IMAX in Manhattan, like at Lincoln Square. I felt like it was kind of intense. I had this feeling of like, okay, I really can't escape the brutality that's happening on screen. Yeah. I was breathing in The Rock's sweat in a way that didn't necessarily augment the film experience for me.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like an interesting choice to make this movie, The Smashing Machine, IMAX. Like, I don't think it necessarily necessitates that.
No.
The same question that we're all kind of dancing around is like, what is the point of this movie? And the most like crass and cynical version of this is like, it's a vanity project. It's for The Rock. But you also have to look at it, I think, from like, I sense that Benny Safdie, who is, of course, a lover of especially 70s cinema, and if you look at everything from Uncut Gems to Good Time, like, that could have been made in the 70s with, like, James Caan. It's a very insular character study in a way. And when I looked at the production notes, the word transform or transformation or transformative is used no less than 8 times in the production notes for this.
Are they referring to the prosthesis that The Rock is wearing?
The prosthesis, but also like the physical. I'm like, I don't know how much of The Rock has always been.
He's a big guy.
Yeah, he's always gigantic.
Yeah. These are the words you use when you are trying to get awards. But I also think like I was kind of mixed on it as well, but I actually came out liking it more than I thought I would. I don't actually think The Rock is transforming all that much in this movie. I think it's actually very suited to who he seems like he would be like in real life. I actually feel as though this could have been a movie about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson more so than it could be about this guy I've never heard of until this movie, because everything about him, the way he is so single-mindedly focused, he has this way of talking to Dawn, the Emily Blunt character, where he's clearly trying to be as nice as possible. And I don't want you to think that I'm a bad person, but also I'm kind of resent you and I'm kind of condescending. And there's a way I can see The Rock being like that in real life, of like having, he has this like personality trait where he's like, I need to please everyone. But also, if you annoy me, I'm going to dig it a little bit. And I think that's why this movie worked for me as much as it did, even though I did still come away being like, I don't know if we needed this movie. The other thing I find funny is that at the end of this movie, there's like a postscript on the screen. And
that ground my gears, man.
Yeah.
The postscript, I'm paraphrasing here, but it says something along the lines of like, today, fighters earn millions of money doing this, and everyone knows their name. And
everybody knows their name. And I was like, that's not true.
No.
Yes.
Come on now. And I wondered, is this supposed to be ironic? Because every time you think this movie is going to zig, it zags. And every time you think, as you said, this is going to be an addiction story, actually, no, it's more about like a recovery story. And I found that both frustrating, but also I appreciated that it didn't feel like your typical sports biopic.
And I literally had this in my notes, like, this movie zigs where it's supposed to zag. And but the thing is that the places where it zigs, it doesn't really go anywhere, right? Like, it's
the film doesn't use those moments of surprise to like propel it to anything.
It kind of does the same thing like over and over again.
And I didn't think the movie was bad. I was engrossed when I was watching it. The other thing is that the character's hair is curlier than The Rock's hair. The Rock is a man of African-American descent. So I was like, is this man black? Like, is there a detail here we're missing about this? So I found out later the man is Puerto Rican. I'm not saying you have to explain it, but like The Rock, like he's raceless in his public persona. And a lot of the film roles that he takes also make his race kind of irrelevant. But then in a movie about
He is, but he's not, because if you think about, he had that TV show that was like loosely based on his life. And
Young Rock.
He does acknowledge his roots in that way. But I also understand what you're saying, Brittany.
But there's a racial ambiguity that he has profited from immensely. Yeah. But then there's the story about this guy who, I don't know how much being Puerto Rican meant to Mark Kerr. I have no clue. But I find it hard to believe that he would be surrounded by white people throughout the entire movie. Does this matter to the story? If this was left out, does that mean anything? I'm not saying he needed to have like a breakdown about his identity or discuss it with his girlfriend even. Yeah. But I also am wondering, like, being a Latino man who's regarded as the smashing machine, who's basically like never lost a fight. The fact that was completely unexplored and completely untouched. Who even is this guy? Like, I don't even feel like I really know that much about him by the end.
I didn't know he was Puerto Rican. That's news to me. That there was,
as I said,
a Puerto Rican UFC fighter doing the thing.
Yeah.
I feel like I should see this dude on Puerto Rican Day parade floats. You know what I mean? Like, that's bro.
One thing that did kind of stick out to me that is kind of a big thing for The Rock to have surmounted to play this role is that I think you might be around the same age as the guy this movie is about, but we're going like 25, 30 years back in time. And so like, in a way, like he is too old for the part, but I felt like that was maybe an intentional choice. Part of what is, I think, we're supposed to connect with is The Rock, is like the rockness of it all.
Yeah. It is interesting how insular this entire movie feels. We have this relationship between Mark and Dawn. Emily Blunt is doing her best, and I appreciate her trying to do her best.
That's the best way to put it.
But it also just winds up being the most
long-suffering girlfriend.
I was gonna say, it reminds me of like Heidi Gardner's character from SNL.
Yes.
The like, every girlfriend in a boxing movie. And it's just this girl that's like, just gets upset and is like, oh, I didn't want you to fight today. You know, stuff like that.
And again, like, you can both kind of understand why Mark would find her irritating. But at the same time, it's like, she's just trying to love you, man. And you are too busy chugging your protein drinks and doing whatever. And when she doesn't do it right, he's very like, you know, I use like 2 bananas instead of or like, it was something very digging. But also we have Mark and the other Mark Coleman, who's both like his training buddy / trainer, sort of, but then also they compete against each other. He's played by Ryan Bader.
He was so good. He's a real fighter, right?
Yeah, he's a real fighter. And I was actually very impressed by him. That was an interesting storyline. But again, it just comes down to, what is this movie trying to do? And I think that maybe I'm reaching here, but it does feel as though Benny Safdie is trying to like subvert the sports movie. I mean, this could also just be like trying to, you know, burnish this guy's reputation because he's still alive and has input or has signed off on this movie at the very least.
Coming up, some of what we think the Smashing Machine got right. After a quick break.
Support for this podcast and the following message come from Mint Mobile. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no hidden fees. Plans start at $15 a month. Make the switch at mintmobile.com/minute. That's mintmobile.com/minute. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
This message comes from BetterHelp. To mark World Mental Health Day, BetterHelp is thanking the therapists who change people's lives all around the world by providing accessible mental health support. With over 12 years of experience matching clients with therapists and one of the world's largest online therapist networks, BetterHelp can help you find the right therapist. Visit BetterHelp.com/NPR for 10% off your first month. This message comes from Grainger. If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment to help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The soundtrack, I have to say, is quite great.
I agree. That was one of the things that I loved about it. I thought the needle drops were excellent.
Yeah.
The Jungle Land needle drop really floored me.
Early on, there's like Lil Susie, the Latin freestyle, Take Me in Your
Lil
Arms.
Susie, oh my God.
Yes. It makes sense that he's Puerto Rican because, hearing that, I was like, okay.
Like freestyle was such a specific Puerto Rican East Coast moment in like the early 90s.
And a generational
It's like before I knew that the dude was Puerto Rican, I was like, what an interesting song choice there. Like, anyway.
I had that thought as well. As he's like doing drugs and then Take Me in Your Arms is playing, I was like, okay, this kind of rad.
I love the music on here. I also have to say the score, what also feels like a little bit of subverting of what you usually expect with these movies is the score. Oftentimes when they're fighting in the ring, you're hearing like a jazz score, kind of likening it to something that's a little bit more fluid and dancey and sensual in a way. The contrast there worked for me. And that score was by Nala Sinefro, who's this Caribbean Belgian experimental jazz musician. And so that's why I kind of feel as though like it seems like Benny Safdie is really trying to do something different here. And even just the fact that it's shot on film, but then it's also shot on like what he calls VHS. Like a lot of these directors this year, I don't know if they're taking a page from Ryan Coogler, but like they're explaining, this division or let me explain to you what you need to see. And like, okay, film is back, baby. Yes, let's do it.
That's what's up.
One of the things I really dug about the movie though is like the sort of grubbiness of this like early sort of primordial MMA space. Like if you think of like, I don't know, A League of Their Own, very different movie, but like a movie in which like about this sort of upstart, sort of scrappy league inhabited entirely by people who just are really diehard about this thing. I think there's something about this movie that was kind of endearing on that level. It was like, okay, that sort of comes across in this Mark Kerr character. He's just like somebody who seems to like be really earnest about like, I like to do this.
It's orgasmic, as he says at one point.
Yeah, absolutely right.
I agree with you. Like this movie does do a good job of sort of like getting at that, even if we don't fully understand Mark Kerr's motivations, his specific motivations, you can see how that culture sort of like encourages people to be just obsessive about it. Like with any sort of sport that is not going to get you highly paid. Like you have to be obsessed with it or else why are you doing it?
Yeah.
It does kind of get at that, I think.
I really like when The Rock gets serious. Like I bring up Michael Bay's Pain and Gain.
Such a good movie.
Where he's playing a meathead, but he's doing it really well. And in Southland Tales, the Richard Kelly movie, he's kind of doing like a sort of off-the-wall paranoid. It's pretty good and it's serious and he's really like putting his whole foot into serious acting there. I think a name that we talked about before we started recording is Dave Bautista, right? A fellow wrestler who does a lot of serious roles. Rock's song Knock at the Cabin was like, I could do this.
Even sort of John Cena sort of doing this thing where he's like very self-deprecating and sort of like, willing to be the butt of a joke. The Rock, it feels like there's a sort of humanity that The Rock, his image has precluded him from like inhabiting on screen that I think a bunch of his other fellow wrestlers have done.
This is my belief is that The Rock's tether is Dave Bautista. And the thing about Dave Bautista is that like they both have a similar thing as with John Cena, but Dave Bautista is like really kind of the artiste of all three of them.
Yeah.
They all have like, I wouldn't say it could be an obstacle or a feature depending on what kind of roles you're thinking of their physicality. I imagine that like it can be maybe difficult to play a guy, you know what I mean? If you are like 6'5", 300 pounds of solid muscle, I am curious to see how The Rock will continue to advance his more serious actorly roles after this film. I am curious to see how he could approach playing someone who is not a UFC fighter and not a wrestler, or not a professional football player. I find Dave Bautista like riveting on screen. He has something very soulful about him. There is something that he's able to access, and maybe it's because he doesn't have a persona outside of himself in the same way The Rock has a persona outside of himself. And so it makes Dave Bautista to me more accessible on screen as a guy who could be another guy. Whereas like I have to contend with him being The Rock before I even get to him being Dwayne Johnson, the actor, before I can then even get to the character. So I'm curious.
I do wonder if part of that stems from the fact that the way he sort of approached his career, which is that he's never really sought to be the star, Dave Bautista. Like, he's the side character. He's okay, it seems, with playing smaller roles. And The Rock has never really been that. Like, it's a Rock movie. No matter what, it's going to be a Rock movie.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting on a Hobbs and Shaw sequel. I'm happy he's doing this, but give me more Hobbs and Shaw. I'm just saying.
And I follow wrestling. I follow what the highest profile wrestlers are doing. You know, Cody Rhodes was in Naked Gun. But I'm excited to see what The Rock has cooking in the future, is what I will say.
Well said, well said.
That was Pop Culture Happy Hour's Aisha Harris, Code Switch's Gene Demby, and NPR contributor Rhianna Cruz. And you can listen to more deep dives on films, TV shows, and music on the Pop Culture Happy Hour podcast. I do pop up on their podcast regularly, so tune in to hear my thoughts on some of the latest drops of the moment. I'll be back tomorrow with a brand new episode of It's Been a Minute, and I can't wait for you to hear it. I'm Brittany Luce, and thanks for listening.
Support for this podcast and the following message come from Leesa. Leesa has a lineup of beautifully crafted mattresses tailored to how you sleep. Each mattress is meticulously designed and assembled in the USA and designed with specific sleep positions and feel preferences in mind. Visit leesa.com for 20% off, plus get an extra $50 off with promo code NPR. That's LEESA.com, promo code NPR. This message comes from Carvana. Selling doesn't need to be stressful. With Carvana, it's quick, easy, and all online. Enter your license plate, get a real offer, and get paid. Visit Carvana.com to sell your car today.
We all wonder about life's big questions. Why are we here? What are we to do? And how to make sense of it all. On Ye Gods with Scott Carter, I talk with politicos, priests, actors, and atheists on how they wrestle with life's mysteries. Their stories will spark reflection, challenge assumptions, and maybe even bring you some clarity on your own journey. Listen to Ye Gods, part of the NPR network, wherever you get your podcasts.